How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to another Conquest of Azeroth video. Today we're actually taking a look at probably my most hyped class. Personally, I really liked this class, and this was the class I was looking forward to the most when I first started playing this game. And the sheer difference between now and 8 months ago when I first tried this class and got it to level 40, it plays completely night and day difference. It's pretty incredible now, honestly. I wasn't a huge fan back then, as a lot of the mechanics to the class, I guess you could say, felt kind of clunky, especially as someone who wanted to be a big, minion summoning Necromancer. There was not a lot going for it in the very beginning, but I am glad to say they have actually made things much better than they were before, and have made it a lot more of like a power fantasy of what you would want as a Necromancer. Now, I personally leveled and have only played with the animation class spec, which is the one where you summon a bunch of, zombies and stuff, obviously, because, who doesn't want to do that? It's pretty badass. But the other two specs do look pretty fun, and if it wasn't so expensive for me to switch specs, I would have definitely been trying the other ones while leveling. That's just, the issue with this is every respec for me costs like 60 gold, maybe even a bit more. So I was kind of stuck with this one as I didn't really have the money for it. And honestly, not complaining, because this was a complete blast to level. I enjoyed it much more than I thought I would, to be honest, and it felt a lot better than the Witch Hunter class that my last video was on. So anyway, let's get into what this class is all about. There's 3 different specs to it, which is the animation one, which is the one I personally enjoy the most, where you summon an army of the dead. There is the Rime spec, which is, think, like Kel'Thuzad, if you know who that is. I'm sure you do if you're playing World of Warcraft, but it's pretty much like a Frost DK and like a Frost Mage had a baby together. That's kind of how it plays. It's very lot of burst damage, real strong with like, it's more of a traditional spellcaster type of thing. And then the other one, the final one, is the I think it's called the disease class, or the disease specialization. And that one plays, from what I saw, really similar to like, your affliction warlock, where you're putting a bunch of dots on them, but instead of like curses and stuff, you're putting on diseases on the enemies, which, if you're into that kind of play style, I could really see that being a good, a good choice for you. But personally, I was never really a big fan of affliction warlocks, never really a big fan of mages, but always a really big fan of minion builds, in games like, Path of Exile, Diablo. Always loved summoning a bunch of zombies and just having my little goons killing them all, which you can see in the background is exactly what's happening right now. It's a lot stronger. Well, I wouldn't say it's a lot stronger than what I thought it was going to be, because minion builds are always really strong, and it's pretty hard to balance around that because you just have so much different avenues of damage, and the higher level you get, the more, life force you get and more abilities to summon more things. So like, you can end up with, if you spec it right, you could end up with like, in the middle of combat, over 20 different minions. And you might have seen that in a bit in the intro that I did, where that was me at max level, that's currently level 50 on the server, and I was trying out, all the different abilities and stuff, and I summoned everything, and it's a pretty cool spec. It's really good for leveling, really smooth, never was really in any real danger. The only time I think I died the entire time leveling this character was when I was in the dark iron mines that's beneath the Searing Gorge, where all the dark iron dwarves are. I didn't realize that there's a Pella quest you can do, and it at the end of it summons an elite monster that it does a lot of damage, and it ends up killing my tanking minion, which is my Flesh Guardian, or I think that's what it's called. The big abomination. He's the one that takes all the aggro, and I wasn't really paying attention, so that's how I ended up dying that time, because he ended up like 5-shotting it, and I didn't realize it, so I wasn't healing it at the time, which was kind of frustrating, but it is what it is. I really wish there was a way to level quicker to try out these different classes, as there is really no like dungeon groups being made. If you're a DPS, you're kind of either forced into playing healer or tank, and it's mainly healer. Healer seems to be the one that people are usually asking for in the world chat to join up on the the dungeon finder. But being a necromancer and all three of the specs being DPS, there's not really much of a choice for me. So it came down to having to level normally again. But thankfully, you have that big XP boost, the 7-day one, and then you have XP potions. So it doesn't take too long. It took me from getting from level 40 to 50. It probably took me like, I don't know, 3 hours, and that was just doing some quests in Stranglethorn and then finishing up in Searing Gorge. It honestly was more of a pain in the ass trying to get to Searing Gorge than anything really. But yeah, this class is really fun. Really enjoy it. If you're into necromancers, they definitely are on the right track with this one, and it feels really good. Surprisingly, I enjoyed it quite a bit. And in a bit, you'll see I'm going to go into all the different skills that they have. And yeah, I'll see you in a bit when we go into the different talents that each class or each spec has. Alrighty, we're back again, and this time we're checking out the talent trees for all of the different specializations. First one we're looking at is the animation one, which is the one that I leveled with, and there is some pretty good talents. There are definitely some outliers that are much stronger than the others, and like that summoning mastery one, it gives you a bunch of the talents already in the tree, like the gurgling horror and the flesh golem. It gives you those, so I think they're gonna have to work on that. They're probably gonna fix it so they either aren't on the tree or something will happen. I'm not sure, but it's kind of weird because you can, if you're not paying attention to what you're doing, you can end up choosing one of those instead of just choosing the obviously best one, which increases your life force. But yeah, there's a bunch of really good summons you can get. There's a lot of good one of the class mechanics that you can kind of go into, you can spec into, is the rotlings, which come with your I forget what it's called. It's that 3-1 on the top right. It's like foul something, and you get that for doing damage over time, over shadow and disease damage, I think. And you use those to summon little zombie dudes, and you can spec into that, and you can end up summoning like 8 of them at a time and upgrading them, making them do more damage. But personally, I liked the spec path that I did, which was getting the big unholy colossus, this huge monster, and then making it my champion because it does a huge AoE stun. It does a lot of taunt. I like getting that one with the other tank minion, and you pretty much become unstoppable if you're just healing. I don't think it's as good in PvP, but in PvE and leveling especially, it was really, really good. And here's me checking out all the different spells you unlock over time, and you can see that the skeleton archers and the brittle skeletons, those are like your base ones. Then the skeleton smith, and then sacrifice undead is what you use to, if the minions bug out, that's what I used for anyway. And then spell blight's your silence, and then transfer life is, your warlock, like heal minion kind of thing, except it doesn't do damage to you, which is kind of weird. Unholy command is really, really good. So all of your minions actually have different abilities that activate if you use Unholy Command, and some of them are really, really good. But anyways, this is checking out the Rime specialization, the one I was talking about, where it's kind of like a mix between a Frost Death Knight and like a Mage, where it's definitely the big spellcaster spec for this class. And it's unfortunate that I couldn't really check these out on this character, as like I said earlier, the gold price was just way too much to try to switch specs. But from what it looks like, it's definitely, you put on like a big dot, and then you have your frost daggers, and there seems to be a really big push towards activating the death chill stacks, and that coincides with a lot of the different talents, which, you know, the big ones, like you'll see in a bit at the very top, it like reduces their cooldown for all the stacks that you expunge. So it looks really good. I've never been really a big fan of mages, so I wasn't really that interested in this one. As you know, if I'm playing a necromancer, you want to summon the dead, right? Like that's the whole like thing. That's what I believe anyway. But yeah, this is just me checking all these out. Of course, you can pause this if you want to read any of these over. You know, there's your AoE stun, which, you know, that's good for PvP, and that's another silence and pacify, which could be good for PvP or dungeons. And yeah, you see there's a lot of this like consuming different like dots, and you know, chill touch, glacial dagger, that type of stuff. So it seems really good. It seems like they've definitely, you know, expanded the spec a lot. Like there's a lot of different choices you have. I don't know how good one or another is personally, but it seems like if I was going to go into the Rime spec, I definitely want to choose this talent right here at the very top that I'm about to go over. Yeah, the Lich form, because it pretty much turns you into like, you know, Kel'Thuzad or one of those guys, a big like frost skeleton mage, which sounds really, really cool. And you know, it's just a giant like ultimate form, which I absolutely love. I love these big game changing things that you never really see in base World of Warcraft. I mean, that's why we play Conquest of Azeroth, right? Is for the uniqueness and all the different classes and how they work. But yeah, here's me checking out the final one, the death one, which was the kind I was talking about, the affliction, where this one, it seems you spread a lot of dots, and this looks like this would be a really good one in PvP, because there's just so many different dots, and you could spread it, and it's really good for spreading between a bunch of enemies. And I mean, Affliction Lock has always been pretty good in PvP and regular WoW, I'm pretty sure. And so I assume this would be good, and considering just the sheer amount of talents that you can select for this spec, like when you compare this one to like in my other video with the Witch Hunter class, this one has like over twice the amount as the other specs on the other class. So it definitely looks like they've given a lot of love to some specs over the others, but I'm sure they're going to work on expanding them and making that class fantasy feel really good. But yeah, this is just me checking out the rest of these, and it seems like a lot of these talents are just a lot of either increasing the damage rate, the tick rate of your dots, or like increasing the healing, or just different things like that, or reducing movement speed and attack power, stuff like that. And yeah, see, it stacks up to 20 times. So these are some really big dots that you can build up if you get the time to, you know, hit an enemy for any decent amount of time. Of course, I don't know how powerful this would really be in PvP, because I'm considering what I've seen with the Witch Hunter class and this class. There's definitely a lot of power in these classes, and they're really strong. And so I'm not sure how good this would actually be against some of the other classes, because I'm sure some of them are just like, they hit like trucks and they silence you, stun you. So it'd be a hard time getting a lot of these different things on there, unless you can either figure out some way to get the dots on real quick with like with that Plague Storm one, where it applies a lot of your dots. But yeah, this is just, we're gonna finish up the rest of this death one, and that's about it for the Necromancer. If you have any requests, just let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.